to make some tea and I left the intro running. But I'm here. Hope you're all doing so well. Australia tour, here we come. Let me just put the music down. See who's in the comments section. Hey, cookies and cream, and nice and early. Ileana Hernandez, hello. Hey Gwen. Hey Mina. All right, let's get to it, shall we? Who's ready for Meghan? And Harry. Let's be honest, we get the most excited about Meghan. We love Harry too, of course. Well, we know who's the most excited actually is the Derangers. The Derangers that make me feel like a lazy fan sometimes. Hey, Connie Barmer. How you doing? Hey, Janice. I mean, the Derangers, they weren't going to miss this. They were going to try and use their life savings to get into Meghan's retreat. And one almost did. One almost did, if it wasn't for the sake of those meddling kids. Those really, really good organizers making sure that Meghan is safe. All right, let's start with... What have I got on my slides today? Let's actually start with this. I said it already and I'll say it again because I generally think it's the truth. I think that this visit to the United States that Charles is taking is pointless. I think it is incredibly politically insensitive. Just a day ago, Trump threatened to take out an entire civilization, just passively tweeting that he's going to take out an entire civilization. And apparently that isn't even a deal breaker for Charles to be going. Apparently insulting United Kingdom army men and women isn't enough for Charles not to be going on this trip that still has not been given a good explanation as to why it's happening, because there is no good explanation. Charles is going for his own selfish needs and for Trump's own selfish needs and ego. This is going to be the tackiest display of political clowns we have ever seen. I actually think this is going to be worse than the banquet that they had in the UK when Trump visited the UK. It's going to be a lifelong corrupt businessman's idea of wealth and pomp and pageantry. Insane. While they bomb and burn the earth down. Anyway, some people who have a conscience are trying to use this moment to bring attention to important topics like the issue of Epstein's survivors. And the story of Andrew has just withered into the background now. They've made sure of it. I mean, these Epstein files dropped some weeks, months ago now. Not a single arrest. Nothing. They dropped those files and nothing happened. Quite frankly, what should have happened is we should have rushed the, Americans should have rushed the halls of power collectively and done a citizen's arrest themselves. The problem is that you now have a portion of the American public that do not care that a sitting president, pretty much now a dictator at this point, is associated with heinous crimes. Mind you, even before the Epstein files came out, Trump has a long rap sheet. They would still rather have him in power than have any level of accountability. And they don't care that he is associated with individuals credibly accused of doing heinous and disgusting things to women and children. And Charles is going to go to shake his hand and eat food in his tacky banquet hall. Well, there is a congressman who is raising some noise. The lawmaker who led the charge for the release of the Epstein files is calling on King Charles to meet with survivors of the convicted PDF file when he visits the US next month. Democratic Representative Ro Khanna wants him to sit down with the women who've accused Epstein of abuse. To be honest with you, I'm not going to police what the survivors may want. Maybe they do want to meet with him. I just personally, if I was in their shoes, for me, I don't even want a conversation. Because what conversation is there to be had? These people need to be arrested, need to be put on trial, interrogated, their phones, computers, communications that they've ever had with anyone gone through with a very, very fine-tooth comb, and they need to be thrown in jail. If I was in that group of survivors personally, I would not want to meet with Charles, because what even are they going to ask an individual with so much diplomatic and international protection, which is partly what he's going to the US for? These survivors need accountability. And quite frankly, that comes in the form of under the laws that we currently have, a trial, a jury, and a court day. Now, what I think should happen to the likes of Charles and Trump and Andrew and everybody else involved in this horrible cover-up, I cannot say on a live podcast, but under the law, arrests, questioning, a trial, and a jury is what needs to happen. And that's not happening. And I don't think having a sit down with Charles is going to help, because real talk, what would they even ask and what would he even say? But there has been an attempt to continue to keep the Andrew and the Epstein story alive. But it's just so obvious that we are being distracted. Yeah, this is just very tone deaf, beyond tone deaf, of Charles to be going. The United States just had what I believe was the second biggest protest, the No Kings protest. I wonder if some of those protesters, could you please come back out the day that Charles lands? Could you please come back out? You know, I'm pretty sure that Britain's entire legal system would collapse before Charles ever had to take the stand for anything regarding Andrew. But there's no legal reason, if the survivors want it. Like I said, I don't know what they would get from it. There's no legal reason why Charles couldn't meet with some of the survivors, being that he's meeting with a whole Epstein associate and co-conspirator, Donald Trump. Anyway, let's have a listen to what the representative had to say.
Refusal, if he really does refuse to meet the Epstein survivors, would be a big mistake.
Buckingham Palace has made it clear through sources we've both been speaking to over here that the king is not really willing or able, as they say, to meet survivors of Jeffrey Epstein during this state visit. What was your reaction to that?
Well, it's disappointing. Willing and able are two different things. He's certainly able to meet them. We made it very clear that none of the specific facts regarding his brother would be discussed. We made it clear that uncomfortable questions would not be asked. But his refusal, if he really does refuse to meet the Epstein survivors, would be a big mistake. And I don't think he understands how thin the line is of the support for the royals in the United States.
You've seen the media reports about, him feeling that he can't prejudice a police investigation which is ongoing in the UK. Have you received any direct response from the palace or the King's lawyers at all?
We have not. I reached out to the British ambassador. We have not heard back yet. But that's just not true. I mean, there's no one who thinks that the king meeting with the survivors in a context where his brother's case is not going to come up prejudices anything. All it would do is recognize the trauma they faced, the inhumanity they faced. His refusal, if he is really...
There you go. I mean, they said that they wouldn't ask him any questions if they met, and they feel that they want him to recognize the trauma that they faced. I don't know if you can ask a whole reptilian to show that level of empathy. These people have no empathy whatsoever. Barbara, you said Charles has come to America for one reason, to ask Donald Trump to protect Andrew, to get the FBI office, but also to get Congress to back down. And he'll probably leave for some cash money bags from Elon or Peter Thiel or someone. He said, I disagree with you. I think many people don't condone Trump. Even MAGA are jumping ship. Trump apparently has powerful backers. I don't believe he won the election. He won't be there forever. You don't need a lot. I know that there are, many people in the United States who don't like Trump, including the MAGA lot. Apparently his misogyny and convictions and all the rest of it wasn't enough. Now that the oil prices are going up, now they're taking the Trump bumper stickers off of their cars. So yes, I do know that many MAGA are jumping ship. Had to take for us to be dragged into yet another illegal war. And apparently I hear that there's a draft that they're going to bring back in the draft. So yeah, all of these MAGA alpha male bros screaming and yelling, they're coming after men, they're coming after masculinity. Oh well, and now here's the draft. Now we're going to see them jump ship for sure. So I know all that, but you still have a pretty large cohort that do support him. And those individuals are still very dangerous. Because even if that makes up 10% of Americans, that's 10% of Americans that would be willing to take up arms if you tried to disarm this clown of a dictator. So that's what I'm being mindful of. And I think Americans should be mindful of. If it got to the situation where citizens did take up arms and decided to do a citizen's arrest of the criminals that you have in power, you just have to be mindful that you do still have a cohort of MAGA supporters that will fight tooth and nail. Lottie, you said that you would like to meet Charles, and I would let him know exactly what his no good brother did. I think that would embarrass him. I don't know if reptilians can feel embarrassment, but if you were in the survivor's shoes and that's what you feel would let you heal, then so be it. Apparently, this is what the survivors feel would let them heal, and I understand that. I'm not here to police any survivor. I was just trying to say practically what should be done isn't going to be done, unfortunately. At least not at this time. Black Lily, you said Trump is named in the files nearly 40k times. They haven't even all been released. It is a height of hypocrisy for Chuck to meet with survivors and canoodling with Trump. He clearly doesn't care. No, he clearly does not care. He clearly doesn't care. Sandra, and you're talking about civil war. Yes, I am talking about civil war. I mean, America had a civil war before. I mean, I'm just, guys, I'm looking at this politically from an outsider looking in. Personally, I feel this dictatorship clown presidency that you have needs to be ousted. I think there either needs to be some kind of military coup or mass citizens arrest of this entire administration. I do not think that you can allow this dictator to go on for an entire term, because you could even end up with a situation where he decides he's going to keep himself there, or his cronies decide they're just going to, as they are, rip apart the entire system, and then you won't even have another election. So if it got to that point, now hopefully you have a situation where everybody sees sense and the criminals in charge, and this happens in many countries around the world, where either the army or citizens do some kind of coup and disarm the government. It happens. Like, this isn't, I'm not saying anything that's just so wild. Maybe it might be difficult to contextualize such a thing happening in the United States, but it happens when you have dictators. Hello, I come from a mother continent. Now, ideally, the majority would be on the same page, and then you would get you'd get the regime out. But if you have a cohort of crazies who just can't take the L, and then yes, you have some kind of clash or civil war. But hopefully that doesn't happen, and everybody sees sense, and everybody can see that this is complete and utter disaster, and you just need to get him out. Because respectfully, I saw the protests, and the protests were incredible. The second biggest protest in US history, I hear. But then what's the next step? Doesn't anyone know where to watch Meghan's Australia Afar? Would it be on Amazon? Huh? Meghan's Australia Afar? What's that? What is that? Meghan's Australia Afar? Did something just drop? Have I missed something? What are you talking about, the tour on Amazon? Oh God! Breaking news. Okay. Prince Harry sued for libel by his former charity centre Barley, a court record seen by Reuters shows. Sophia Chandauka, you are going to hell. Sophie Chandauka, you are going to hell. My God. Okay, let me just carry on with the podcast, and then we will come back to this, because what is this even? Sued for libel? Are you kidding? Who is backing this? Who is backing this? There is no way that Sophie Chandauka would be doing this by herself. Oh gosh. Okay. Let's not get sidetracked, folks. Oh, you mean the Australian, just the Australian tour in general? I think honestly, it will be on the news. All of these, listen, BBC just cut their whole team for the other royals, but they'll be following Meghan and Harry. All the news channels will. It's easy traffic for them. Oh. Wendy, Harry has not mentioned that fall since he resigned from Centre Barley. Exactly. I mean, she's actually the one who went on Sky News and was saying libelous things. Oh, okay. Let's get on to the next thing, and then we will have a conversation about that. I may even just start a whole other podcast to talk about that, because I wasn't expecting to talk about that right now. Okay, and yes, despite the fact that they weren't invited and they aren't welcome, and that Harry and Meghan apparently are not relevant, the Sun, the Rupert Murdoch son, is sending a journalist down. These people are desperate. Now, I don't think anybody from the Sun managed to get in. But somebody from, I think this is an Australian outlet, almost got in. So this is a Miss Ariana Pezensky. Ariana was initially accepted, but then they clocked that she is a whole clown, and they rejected her. And then she went online and she's written this entire article about how she got rejected. She wrote this. She said, I knew spending $2,699,000 to share a hotel room with a stranger for the chance to hear Duchess Meghan speak was on paper a mildly unhinged decision. Oh, mildly unhinged. That's how you describe it. Listen, lady. There are people that have the money and the access to want to go to these retreats. And if it costs well over $2,000 to be around other like-minded people who aren't sad and pathetic like you, Ariana, I'd pay the money too. I would pay to protect my human experience from the Arianas of the world. That's what you're paying for when you go to these retreats. But that is the peculiar power of modern women's wellness. Wrap something in the language of empowerment, add ocean views, a gala dinner, champagne, and the promise of proximity to royalty, and suddenly financial common sense starts to feel terribly uninvolved. But you or your employer was willing to pay the money. And there are plenty of people who are willing and have the money. So why are you acting all snooty and snotty about something that you wanted to go to? No, she's talking about the promise of proximity to royalty. That's what you wanted. And then you wanted to go and then make up fake stories about Meghan. That's what you wanted to do. By the way, I'm going to take it off the screen now. But the picture that you see of Meghan sticking out her tongue, which is probably AI and fake, that was posted by Meghan's mole with a threatening tweet, just in case Meghan didn't despise me enough, she's about to hate me even more. This Ariana lady actually put that in her article and then proceeded to pretend like it wasn't a big deal, or she doesn't know why Harry and Meghan's people are being extra tight about security. What I didn't expect was that after inviting me, taking my money, and welcoming... You know, the way she writes that, taking my money, like you didn't give them your money, and welcoming me to the weekend, The organizers of Her Best Life would abruptly refund me the moment they realize I'm a journalist. Honey, you're not a journalist. You're not a journalist. You are a tabloid rat. That's what you are. You're not a journalist. That's exactly what happened when I registered for the Her Best Life retreat. Only 300 women, the marketing promised. A luxury weekend by the ocean. Gala dinners, yoga, sound healing, cocktails, discos, pool time, and the main event, Meghan. So she registered her interest and then received a reply saying spaces were limited, but they'd be in touch soon. And then she was initially accepted. She then goes on to say, all I had to do was confirm and they'd send through a private payment link. I'll admit I was a bit suspicious. Suspicious about what? You applied for it. Weren't you ready to pay? For nearly $3,000, skepticism felt less like paranoia and more like common sense. What a sad individual. She even put screenshots of the emails. Now, in one of the emails, it says, for security requirements, we cannot share the full retreat itinerary until after the Easter long weekend. I mean, the fact that they have to go to these measures because of sad people like this. Sadly, I don't know if Meghan will do another event like this. Unfortunately, I just think it's too dangerous for her. And I know that there are going to be some genuine squaddies there who are going to have their eyes and ears open, but there are enough crazy people in the world that would have 3K to spend. And even the best security, if you get one crazy in there, and they're clearly trying to get in there, that's just too much of a risk. Which is just it's so disappointing. It's so disappointing for fans of Meghan, and it's so disappointing for Meghan. I mean, personally, I think it's great and brave that she's even doing this one, and they've clearly gone to lengths to, you know, shift people out. But the fact that people who say they don't like Meghan and, you know, all they do is write horrible things about her are still trying to get in, it creeps me out and it concerns me greatly. And then you've had trolls threatening, saying that they have friends going. Oh, dear. Anyway, I think it's good that they're not releasing the itinerary. And I'm sure even when people get there, there will be extensive checks. Let's go to your comments. You said, Meghan's mole is a straight fool. That person is obsessed with her. How do you hate someone so much that you buy a ticket to her event? No, it's not the Meghan's mole that you that bought the ticket. She's claiming that her friend did. But you are right that that mole lady is a fool. A crazy psycho fool. Helen, you said defamation in the UK is hard to win unless it's clear cut. I don't think this is about actually winning the case, because also note the timing. Note the timing. This case is not about winning. It's about being a distraction. The timing, there's no way the timing is a coincidence. No way. Sandri said that is holiday money. People spend that all the time. Sun person is an evil and idiotic, indeed. Yeah, I'm glad she got rejected. Also, in all of this, so one of our squaddies did indeed get accepted, and that was our squaddie Zadie Smith. If you're on Twitter, you'll see her. She's very prominent. And the Daily Fail wrote what was almost the equivalent of like maybe 10-15 page article about, sorry, it's Zandy Sussex. They wrote a long article about her. They put screenshots that she'd posted. So Zandy has, she's been very vocal about what she thinks about Kate's illness. She at one point she posted like a card that said it was like a cancer get out of jail, get out of working card. So the Daily Fail have taken all of these screenshots and they're like, this lady who was speaking ill about Kate's illness and making fun of Kate, she's gonna be, with Meghan and being all buddy with Meghan. As if horrible hater trolls that have said heinous things about Meghan haven't met and taken photos with Kate. The Daily Fail have really gone after her, but she's taken it on the chin. I don't know who Zandy is. I've never seen her. She keeps her, profile anonymous, which I think is great. I hope she has a great time. And seriously, STFU to the Daily Fail. Okay. Next thing. Let's gosh, quite a few things to get through. I wanted to, yeah, the overall popularity of the royals. Let's have a listen to this BBC segment and then we'll have a chat.
I think the popularity of the royal family has been in a slow decline, not helped, as you could imagine, by the situation around Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and the revelations that have emerged around his relationship with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Now, that has been incredibly damaging for the royal family, for its reputation and for how it is viewed by the public. And in some of the more recent polling, you can see that some of the numbers show that there is a little bit more dislike and concern about the royal family and what it's there for. But what there hasn't been is a monumental fall off of numbers. And I think that is because, as Tristan has said there, we exist here in the UK where you have a small number of people who are ardent Republicans, a small number of people who are fervent monarchists. In the middle, you have a sort of British shoulder shrug about the royal family by a vast amount of people who are kind of like, I don't really care enough about it to think we shouldn't have it, but I'm not going to be, standing outside the railings of Buckingham Palace, watching for the King and Queen to come and go. So there is a sort of indifference in the middle, but it is important that those indifferent people who kind of quite like the monarchy around a big event and a big occasion stay relatively loyal and relatively happily indifferent. And I think the problem with the situation around Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, I think the popularity of the royal family has been in a slow decline.
Yeah, I think it's a slow decline and ambivalence. And it's quite interesting. You see where they now feel they have to go to get a crowd. It is definitely in these small villages and towns where you have a lot more pro-monarchy sentiment. And it's going to be so interesting to see the crowds and who comes out and the size of the crowds when Harry and Meghan are in Australia, because honey, you can fake bots online, you can't fake bots in real life. And this is another thing. You know, a huge part of the royal propaganda is how things look optically, right? And so if you have dwindling crowds or no crowds at all, or more barricades than crowds, it looks terrible. And so in 1 week's time, we're going to see. And remember that Harry and Meghan's trip is being privately funded. So, what can we expect from this trip, which I predict you will see massive crowds, bigger than Charles and Camilla's for sure. So, a few key engagements that have been announced for Harry and Meghan's trip. Let me just open my phone. So, key engagements and focus areas. This is what we have so far. Youth and healthcare. So the couple will visit a children's hospital to meet with parents and staff, emphasising their commitment to youth well-being. Veterans and mental health. Harry will attend events related to veterans affairs, building on his work with the Invictus Games, while both will participate in mental health awareness initiatives. Women's advocacy. Meghan is set to visit a women's homeless shelter to highlight housing insecurity and will speak at a women's empowerment retreat in Coogee. Sports. Harry's schedule includes appearances with an AFL club in Melbourne and attending a rugby union match in Sydney to promote community athletics. And Liam Maguire from their communications team said the programme is rooted in long-standing areas of work for the Duke and Duchess, with a clear focus on amplifying organisations, delivering measurable impact. The visit prioritises listening, learning and supporting communities rather than promotion. Amen to that. He added that the couple were invited, key word there being invited, to Australia by a number of groups and that the trip is privately funded. Which the trip is privately funded. Love to see it. Love to see it, love to hear it. Let them know. Let them haters know. Let them haters know. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's get to your comments and then we'll get to the next story. Prudence, hello. You said no matter what they're trying to do to destroy our high priestess, they will never succeed. No, they will not. Yes, Kim Coates. I can't wait for Trooping of the Colours. Last year's crowd size was noticeably smaller after the Andrew Epstein mess. This year may be much smaller still. Let me tell you, I have never looked more forward to Trooping of the Colours. Heck, I might just get on a plane and go all the way back to England just to see it for myself. But it will be interesting, no? Because last year, I mean, a huge section of the crowd was yellow signs screaming, "Not my king." This is why William is selling off assets. Yeah, liquidate the assets while you can. Because if Charles doesn't get what he wants from Trump, it's going down. Wendy Lomini said the Australian government wants to host the Invictus Games. They will make this trip a success and secure for Harry and Meghan. With the global media on this trip, good business for the country. Speaking of the Invictus Games, do the next Commonwealth Games have a host? I remember the last time we had a conversation about the Commonwealth Games, nobody wanted to host it. Nobody wanted to host it. So the 2026 Games is being held in Glasgow, Scotland. but they were having issues with the next one. So they're saying here that Nigeria expressed interest in hosting the 2030 games. But they were struggling to even get somebody for the 2026 games. I have to just assume that they will scale it down. Let's have a look. Yeah, Helen, listen, Harry and Meghan have all the supporters, so... Oh, do we have a troll? Gosh, this is the first time in a long time we've had a troll. Where's the troll? Mod Squad, have we taken care of the troll? Jesus. Do you know what, honestly, folks, sometimes I forget that trolls listen. Like, I've been doing this for so long that I'm just like, I just get on and I start vibing with you lot. Sometimes I even forget that the trolls listen. Oh, hello, troll. Thanks for adding to the ad revenue. Much appreciated. Thank you so much, Cookies and Cream, for getting rid of the troll. Oh, that's actually the first time in I can't remember the last time we had a vocal troll. I mean, if I go into my dashboard, I think I've blocked like over 700 people in 4 years. So a lot of the times I just don't even bother. Hilarious. I mean, trolls are welcome. You're welcome to listen. Just don't say nothing in the comment section or we'll kick you out. I mean, you're so obsessed with Meghan, you're willing to pay thousands to go to her retreat. Am I surprised you listen to us? No. Hilarious. Okay. Next thing. Charles. There is an article. I think this was actually by Rob Jobson. Jobson is an interesting one. I feel like Jobson loves the tea and he loves the mess. And he's been getting messier in more recent years. I guess him, like the other rotor rats and writers and correspondents, are realizing, oh, this train is slowly crashing. Meghan's gone, she ain't coming back. And Harry as well. And so better to come in with the tea and the mess and make the most of however long this train is going to ride as we can, but I don't think it'll be for too long. So that's why you've got Jobson writing like this. So just before Christmas last year, Charles made a video address as part of Stand Up to Cancer. He announced that his health had improved to the point where his cancer treatments would be reduced in 2026. That means that Charles is no longer tied to staying in London midweek every week for his treatments. It was good news overall, and it really hampered his heir's campaign of "I'm going to be king any day now." Yes, William was literally on a rampage, leaking and briefing, getting his coronation robes ready. Like his father was gonna be laid to rest within weeks. That was William. That wasn't us, the trolls. That wasn't us, the critics. That was Charles's own son. Prince William was furious that Charles's health has improved and furious that he had to stop with the briefings about his imminent kingship. Well, now Robert Jobson says that the British media was encouraged to hype Charles' improved health, even though Charles isn't actually doing any better. He says the palace deliberately overhyped positive news about Charles's cancer treatment in December. One of Britain's most respected royal correspondents has claimed Dobson, the veteran Fleet Street journalist, dubbed the godfather of royal reporting, made the claim in an interview with the Royalist podcast, saying that the palace aides had leaned on journalists to present the king's health issues in the most positive light. I think it was overhyped in December. I think that the palace were overemphasizing the good news. The press spokespeople were saying, oh, this is good news. They were trying to say the journalists at the time, don't interpret it in any other way. This is good news. The king is living with cancer. He will live with cancer. There is not any prospect, I think, of anything other than him living with cancer, and that says it all. I praise the king's extraordinary example, his courage and duty, and said that friends of mine who had spent time with him lately had found him full of vigor and at midnight. He then added that Charles would likely be adjusting his treatments ahead of his upcoming Washington visit to make sure he's got enough energy to give it his best shot. If he is so ill and so sick, why even bother? Now, because we know that these people wouldn't go for any good moral reasons. So if Charles can't even sit down because he needs to rest, oh, they are desperate to have some conversations in person they can't have via emails. Because now we know what happens to your emails eventually. It all comes out eventually. So they don't want to say it by email. They want to say it face to face. Jobson also suggested that while the king would never abdicate, he would, if seriously ill, allow the disease to take its inevitable course. If he felt that he could not carry out duty because of his ill health, he would probably say, I can't continue with the treatment I've got, and I'll take it, and I'll let it take its action. And the article goes on to say, Charles hasn't been almost falling asleep standing up. He looks exhausted, absolutely, but there's no need to overdo it, especially when Charles still outworks William and Kate combined. That's a good point. I can't believe I'm about to defend Charles and Buckingham Palace, but I don't think they were wrong to hype or overhype the good news. It was genuinely good news, wasn't it? That Charles no longer needed weekly cancer treatments, that he planned on travelling more and working more. Two things can be true at the same time. It was good news and Charles is still living with cancer. Besides which, the announcement was worth it just to watch Kensington Palace backtrack on their Scooter King campaign. Speaking of, Dobson also revealed that William refuses to show any deference to his father at this point. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that there is a rivalry between the courts. I don't think these people even see each other as human, even though they're a family. Very strange life to live, where those who you know, your own son is just out here waiting for you to go. Very, very strange gobbledygook life. Couldn't pay me to be a royal. Okay. It is past, well, it's coming to 2 a.m. where I am, and I need to sleep. So what I'm going to do is, when I wake up, we will get into the Sente Bali news. If anything, it only broke in the last hour. So we can talk about it when I wake up, and there is more details. But all I can say is timing is interesting. And in my opinion, very, very deliberate. Let me have one quick scan of your comments before I wrap it up. Thank you as always, everyone. Lottie, you said Charles needs to take that time and go visit his grandkids, especially if he's that sick. Indeed. Kim Coach, you said Charles is going to DC is a huge mistake. Protests are organising to give him a terrible welcome. I hope so. I'm glad to hear that. One group has promised to project disgusting photos on buildings to troll him. I mean, they did that in the UK. They projected images of Epstein and Andrew onto Windsor Castle during Trump's state visit. All right, folks, that's all I have to say for now. We will talk about this ridiculous, deliberate clown show new court case coming from Santa Barley's vampires, who unfortunately have sucked the lifeblood out of Santa Barley. But we keep praying, and hopefully Santa Barley, I believe, no, I'm not going to say hopefully, I believe when all this is said and done, Santa Barley will be 10 times better, more successful than it ever was before Sophie Chandauka and her minions got its claws around Santa Barley's neck. But for now, this is where we are. How far will this go? How will it end? Guess we'll see. But like I said, timing, very interesting. 1 week to go from this trip, and boom, court case. Very interesting. We'll talk about this more when I wake up, folks. Ciao for now.